All right, everybody, and welcome back to even another episode of Video Game Esoterica. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Evil Knight by Konami, also known as Hell Knight in the Asian regions. Released in 1998, kind of like a House of the Dead themed horror shooter. This, in fact, was the first game I ever got on M2, Konami platform. It's actually the first M2 board I ever got in general, so this was my first introduction after looking for this hardware for forever. Actually found it from an arcade collector down in Australia. The guy's name is Arthur. He's become a really good guy. We chat back and forth. He's had some stuff shipped to my house that I've sent him to Australia, and he's generally helped me find some things that I've been looking for. My first Total Vice PCB actually came from him. He knew I was looking for it. One day I came home with my wife. There was a big box sitting downstairs from Arthur from Australia. And the minute I saw it, I was pretty sure I knew what it was, but I didn't want to make any assumptions. But I went upstairs, opened the package, and there was just a piece of paper with a random smiley face drawn on it. And inside was a Total Vice PCB with the original disc. Needless to say, that's been the best and most random package I've ever received. So, Arthur, if you ever watch this, I owe you a bunch. Not one, not two, not three, but anytime you need a hand, just let me know. But this is definitely the better of the two light gun shooters on the M2 platform. Total Vice is fun, but definitely looking at things. When you're looking at Evil Knight, there's a lot more care put into it. The graphics are much better. Characters are more varied. And it just overall seems like a better fleshed out experience. Considering the popularity of House of the Dead, it's definitely not surprising that Konami wanted to make a horror haunted house themed shooting game. This one has the reputation of being a cheap House of the Dead ripoff, but I would definitely say it holds its own against House of the Dead. Having played this dozens of times now that I own it, I think I would prefer this to House of the Dead, the original. Now, it's definitely not as good as House of the Dead 2, which also came out in 98, but it definitely stands on its own. But go ahead and kind of watch a little bit of the attract mode here and the story mode, and I'll come back with the gameplay for the commentary. And just so you know, there are going to be some sub-videos because on stage 1, there's course A, there's course B, and there's course C. So what I did was I went through course B, which is the route you take to get the best ending. Now I did screw up and miss one part, so I got the normal ending, which is what you're going to see. But check the other videos, because if you want to see course A and course C, those will be separate uploads, but they will be uploaded the same day, so you'll be able to watch everything. But go ahead and take a look at the attract mode, watch what story there is, and we'll be back with the gameplay. Okay, so here we go with the playthrough for Evil Knight. Now, I have a really weird theory, and I could be completely making this up, but I think some of the enemies and characters in this game are actually modeled after Hollywood celebrities. I'll point them out. There's a zombie that looks identical to Liev Schreiber. There's a zombie that looks identical to me, to Selma Blair, and the blonde in the game story, her right there, her last name is Savigny, the same as the Hollywood actress. Maybe I'm just reading into things, but I think it's true. So here's your first look of Course B of Evil Knight. You've got these skeleton zombies. I'm not sure if they're wearing like a latex bone suit or not, because they definitely have meat in them. But you're going to see that a lot of these zombies are definitely a lot more destructible than the enemies in Total Vice. Their head blows off. You can through holes through their stomachs. And some of the enemies have bone structure underneath where you can shoot the meat off and just see the bone. I don't know if it's just the setting of this game, but graphics look better for sure than Total Vice. A lot of the items in the background are destructible. You can shoot out the crates. All of the lights hanging from the ceiling you can hit. You'll see me do that right here. So just a lot more going on. Some of those guys hold giant drills, and other ones hold what look like weed whackers with big metal discs at the end. So I'm not sure if he's going to weed whack you or what's going on there. Shot him kind of quick, but there's these transparent ghost characters. They're kind of like sprites and polygons at the same time. They're kind of made up of both effects, but the transparency work on them is quite good. Cut that guy almost in half. You can't shoot their legs. You can for damage, but nothing on their leg is going to kind of come apart. Definite monster closet. There's a room behind a bookcase. And in this room here, you're going to get the first of 2 books you can collect. Those books are needed for the good ending. If you play course A or C, you cannot get the good ending because you can't get this first book. You need to get the good ending, you're required to have both books and 3 keys. As I reverse the tide of entropy, I'm really not sure what translation that is, but it's funny. So in this playthrough, I get both books and 2 of the 3 keys. I accidentally make a mistake and don't get the 3rd key, and because I made the mistake so late in the game, I really didn't want to hit reset. So another YouTuber, Gleamson Guy, who owns an arcade cabinet of this game, has uploaded the bad and the good ending as well. So if you really want to see those different endings, you can check his channel out. He shot his cabinet off of a camera, where I'm doing this as a capture for a little bit better quality, but he's done a lot of work showing some of this game on YouTube. So if you want to check out the good or bad ending, I definitely recommend checking out his stuff. He's a really nice guy. He actually only lives about 20 minutes away from me here. I live in Chicago, and he's out in the suburbs, but he's given me some photos of his cabinet to check some of the wiring to answer some of my questions. And I've sent him some CDRs out because there is no real copy protection on the M2. You can't swap discs without switching some code around in a hex editor. But as far as burning the CDs, you can burn them. So I sent him a backup for his PCBs. So once you got to that little stage 1 area where you see your tally score, from there, that's where course A, B, and C all coalesce back into the same path. So it's kind of just that different course selection is the different ways you can get into the house. Course C is probably the longest and most entertaining of the 3 courses. But course A has a wall with a giant eyeball in it that you can check out. So course B, to get the canon good ending, is the only way to do it through course B, but it's probably my least favorite of the 3. You get this giant serpent guy and get used to looking at him because he's definitely coming back. Love how the moon is gigantic and coming through. Not sure if this house only comes alive with evil on a full moon, if that's part of the story, if it just happened to be a good effect, but he is dead for now. And you get those sweet polygon pieces of meat and these enemies that split in half that have a chain. It's like a floppy spine or a chain. I'm not sure what it is, but a lot of care and attention went into enemies in this game. A lot of the, the textures that they have, the models look like they're a little bit higher polygon counts than on Total Vice. Coming up into the sauna room, I'm not sure if the evil mansion had a steam room. There's a lot of stress of being a zombie, throw your back out, take a good schwitz, but it's something you can do. I think it was really just to show off kind of the, environmental effects and some of the graphical work that the Bulldog ASIC could do, but I like to think of it as there was a steam room in the haunted mansion. Splits in half. Great stuff. Another one of the drill zombies. They like their power tools. It seems like every horror-themed shooting game has a zombie with power tools. House of the Dead has it. Evil Knight has it. It's that kind of a common trope of horror-themed light gun games. There's definitely some heavy hardware. These guys are eating something. I couldn't figure out if it's actual meat or if it's human. I'm not sure what they're eating, but nice fireplace, flame texture. This room here kind of reminds me of the alpha footage of D2 for the M2. Kind of those, there's a fireplace, there's all those medieval paintings. So this will probably be as close as you'll ever get to being able to play that game, because I've been looking for over a decade and I'm 99% sure it just doesn't exist. But anyways, that has nothing to do with Evil Knight, so let's keep talking about the game. These skeletons always make me laugh. You can shoot the arms off, you can shoot the heads off. They'll keep coming with their head shot off. Somebody put a painting in a random cell. I guess if you're a prisoner in this castle house, you still need to have your mind stimulated in some way or another. Took another hit there. Game can be cheap in spots, same as Total Vice, but it's not terrible. I mean, I get it. The entire impetus of these games was to make you have fun while taking your money, so it's pretty bad if you could play through the whole thing on a single quarter. The meat monster. Now, if you watch my playthrough for Total Vice, I told you look at the biker gang enemy and look at this guy and see if they seem very similar. And he's not throwing a chain gun, he's just throwing a zombie. I swear it's the same. Here I used charged shot. So the guns for Evil Knight have mercury sensors in them. The handguns, there is also a shotgun that I don't own, but you can play the game with a shotgun. Or you can plug in a handgun to the shotgun port and get the shotgun in the game and just shoot off screen to reload. But if you hold the gun upright for like 3 seconds, that mercury switch is enabled and you get this charge shot. Blows a zombie up in one shot. But this boss is very similar to the boss for the first stage in Total Vice. Just keeps throwing these guys at you. Got a couple decent flame effects down the bottom of the screen. There's some like weird texture warping that goes on in this game. You can see it in the background, kind of where the wall seams are. They split and there's black lines. I don't think that's an M2 thing. I just think it's a Konami thing again. But like I said before, since there is so little on the M2, even though I think there's a lot considering it was an unreleased console, you can only make presumptions as to what's actually going on with anything. It does not matter how many times you shoot him in the head. Those chainsaw strikes almost always hit. And there you go. That is the stage 1 boss. Tells us we're never going to reach Liv. She is the girl we're looking for in the story. But that's stage 1, so just keep watching and we'll get right to stage 2. The gateway to the hell. Not the gateway to hell. This hell is a V. Just another bad Japanese translation, but it's funnier the way I tell it. Got these guys. I'm not sure if they're wearing masks or if their flesh has been peeled off from their face. These guys I love. The guy that was hanging upside down. It looks like he's wearing, I don't know, like a train conductor, rain slicker or something. A lot of the CTA conductors in Chicago wear very similar jackets in the winter, so I swear he's just, you know, he got off his job at the train, stopped by the mansion, got turned into a zombie. Picked up a health up there. There's not that many in the game. They are quite hard to get, but they do exist. But as far as weapon power-ups are concerned, there aren't any. It's just the charge shot and whether or not you pick a handgun or you pick the shotgun. Compared to Total Vice that had a lot of different weapons. There you'll see I shot the doorknob off a door. There are 2 doors in this area where the doorknobs aren't textures, but they're polygons to indicate that you can shoot them off and enter into these secret rooms. These 2 rooms are the second part of how you get the good ending. In stage 1 through course B, you get the first book. In these rooms here, you're going to see behind him, easy to miss, there's going to be a floating key. Shoot that, and you get the first key. There's a lot of bad texture work on that key. You can see the edge of the actual artwork on it, but you do need it. There comes Weed Whacker Man again. He must have been the gardener. Guys have some Freddy Krueger claws going on too. And haunted hamsters, or chinchillas, or guinea pigs. Not sure what they are. I think they might be chinchillas, but definitely not sort of pets. There's going to be another one of those doors coming up with the shootable doorknob. It is quite easy to miss. There it is. But you can see that the doorknob is a polygon versus a sprite. This guy keeps clawing at me. You can't shoot the doorknob until you look at it. I was screwing that all up there. It shot off. This guy comes in for a quick hit with his scythe, sickle, either or. And there's a lot of destructible things in this, like the room. Like, there's your second key. That's 2 of 3 keys. I missed the third, which only gives me the normal ending. But a lot of the couches are destructible, a lot of the bookshelves, and a lot more interactivity than Total Vice offered. But there you go. That's the end of stage 2. So now we've kind of looped back around to the front of the mansion, I think, or maybe the back. Just like, I mean, I don't know why I'm so obsessed with geography in video games, but I really can't figure out how you get from A to B in this one. And I told you to watch out for him. Now you have the corpse of the giant snake. Still not the last time you're going to see him, though. Well, kind of feels a little bit recycled, but it also kind of works. He's got another one of those CTA, MTA drivers in his mouth with that big rain slicker. Died there. And none of the bosses in any of the Konami games, whether it's Total Vice or Evil Knight, there's no like weak spots. It's not like in House of the Dead where they give you the boss's weak spot before you start fighting him. So just shoot him in the mouth and the head as many times as you can. It is quite rare for him to actually draw back on his attack, but it happens sometimes. Got these little jumping lantern guys there. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Clock Tower-esque sort of vibe to it. Definitely a lot of inspiration from different horror games in this one. Like that shot a hole right through his chest. So if you play this with more than one player, you get a lot more zombies on screen at once, and there really isn't much slowdown for that. So graphically, like hardware-wise, the M2 can push a lot of polygons around for its time, and you can have a lot more enemies on screen. You can see that the character model isn't that high poly. The seams are coming apart. The bottom of his trench coat looks like it's made maybe out of 4 triangles, but definitely didn't push the capabilities so much in how it looks, but they did push the capabilities as far as how many enemies you could have on screen at once without suffering any slowdown. You can shoot those busts there. Kind of look like Caesar to me. Who knows? More chinchillas to hit. There are a lot of rooms in this game that have nothing in them. Whoever designed this mansion decided that they needed a lot of storage, it must have been. Guys hopping around. I think like 90% of these crates have nothing. It's very rare to get that health power up, but there's nothing else in any of the crates except the health power up. Chinchilla on the left and right there, you don't have to shoot. They just kind of walk by. They're taking the easy route out today, apparently. And one more time, because, you know, why not? One last cheap hit before he, in fact, actually does die. Are you all right? Obvious. Bad voice acting is obvious. None of these games have good voice acting in them. Not House of the Dead, not Evil Knight, not Total Vice. I mean, if it's a 90s game, it's going to have bad voice acting. So in this room, you're able to shoot all these bookcases apart, just the top, but there is some good destructibility in there, a little more care taken with the overall environment. And before you go down to this trapdoor, you're going to find the second of the books. So the first book you can only get by playing Course B, but the second book you're going to get automatically. So if you play Course B, get the book, which happens automatically, and keep playing through the game, you have 2 of the 5 items required to get that good ending. The keys are all hidden, so those are actually something you do need to look for, but the books are just going to be available to you right off the bat. Well, and I do not know how you can shoot quick enough to avoid getting hit by one of those guys. Definitely just want you to die. So here comes the second enemy. Guy has a big ball on a chain. He's going to use that ball to hide his head. It is quite difficult to get him to stop his attack pattern, but if you get 6 shots to his head before he hits you, you can stop him. It is quite hard because he's going to try to hide that ball in front of his face, and that is going to prevent him from getting shot. So, not a lot of health on the enemy, but it's kind of a pain. I mean, you can take smaller amounts of health off by shooting him in the limbs. Die here, and I kind of let it just continue for a bit so you can see him running. Good looking model, good texture work. Definitely would have been happy to get this in 98 had the M2 come out at home. Missed that shot. I'm not sure why he didn't hit me. Gets me one more time before I think I finish him up. And there you go. That is the second boss. We finished up from the hell, and now we're going to move on. Once again, I know we talked about it in the last video, but you're going to see the loading times here. I mean, this is just still playing. So you're going to think it's, there's your results. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to stop counting. But it's not that bad on the loading. 15 seconds. I finished the last bit in my head, but it's really not bad for an arcade game. Had it been at home, no one would complain about 15-second load time. Especially, we wait minutes for things to load on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and it's just kind of par for the course. But boy, the M2 took a real beating later on in life after it had stopped being in the arcades for having apparently horrible load times. So this is kind of the sewer level. You're going to get some cockroach enemies, some spiders, and some other guys that just don't show up, except in this level. This guy I love. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what's wrapped around him. It's some sort of like plant arm or something with thorns, but he looks like a great enemy. You get these blue swamp monsters. They have no bottom of their torso. I shot that chain. Shoot the chain. You can't get the good ending. You have to look at the chain, and then you're going to turn in a different direction because it's locked. And if you follow that path, you're going to get to a secret hidden room that you unlock with one of the keys to get another key. And that is how you get the good ending. So I forgot about that. I shot the chain, and if you shoot that chain, normal ending is the best you can do. A bad ending if you only get one book if you start on course A or C. The good ending, the normal ending, and the bad ending are not much different. So you're really not missing out on much. And like I said, Gleams and Guy has the good and the bad ending uploaded, so you can definitely check them out on his channel if you want. Yeah, that's like a branch that comes off him or something. It's just, he's such a cool enemy. He's got that skull there. Kind of looks like maybe a mummy or some sort of torso wrapped in cloth. Spiders, they fall from the ceiling from nowhere. First time I played this game, it actually didn't get a jump out of me. I do not like spiders. You can give me snakes all day long. Whole pit of snakes, totally fine. No spiders. Made a mistake when I bought a VR game for the PlayStation 4. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it came with the aim gun, and I didn't realize it took place in an entire spider planet. First spider to run at me in VR, headsets off, never played the game again. Not going to do it. So that alligator-looking guy that you saw come through, he's going to be a little sub-boss for the area. Get some more spiders here. That blows up for some reason. I don't know if there's explosives in it, but one gunshot and that whole thing comes apart. If you don't shoot it, nothing really changes. And here you go. This is what happens when you flush baby alligators down the toilet when you get sick of having them as pets. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't know what this is. It's some giant lizard. Pretty easy. If you hit him 5 to 6 times as he's jumping at you, he will fall backwards. Kind of the texture work is really good on him. A lot of the textures change as you shoot him some more. Some of his body becomes exposed. The meat comes off. Good amount of blood in the game if you turn the menu options in the settings. By default, lightning bolts come out of the enemies when you shoot them, but you can get all the gore effects and kind of this dismemberment to come on through the menu. A couple more spiders. Those roaches, you can shoot them. You get points for them. That guy gets thrown out to attack you, but I'm not sure what threw him. Maybe he just took a dive. When you take the turn here, really nobody there, so I guess he just dove at you. So had you gotten that third key, you would have come from the other direction to go ahead and hit that switch. Because I shot that padlock, we did not get to go into that area. Not a lot different, but that's how you get the good ending. Now we have Chapter 4, The Voice. There isn't actually a boss in this area. You'll see more as it comes along, but I'm not sure why we didn't get a boss. There's a lot of somebodies still here. Now all of a sudden those little transparent wraiths or whatever you want to call them have become red. Doesn't change them at all, they're just a different color. There's also an alternative path in here, depending on how you play. It just kind of is a shortcut. Doesn't really change the story all that much, though. These bats are really hard to hit, but they don't attack much. And in the distance, you're going to see Flannel Zombie. There's also a Flannel Zombie in House of the Dead 2, although I can't really say that they ripped it off much, because they both came out the same year. So either somebody at Sega and somebody at Konami had a conversation and said, hey, it'd be really funny if we put flannel zombies in the game. I don't think that's what happened. I think it just random occurrence that they both decided flannel was in 98. If you were a zombie that knew what they were doing, that's what you're going to wear. So I don't know if we've seen him yet or not. There he is right there. He kind of looks like Lee Schreiber, the actor. And if you watch through Course A and Course C, there is a zombie that looks exactly like Selma Blair. So I think somebody at Konami, one of the modelers, is into movies and just decided they were going to make some of the zombies look like actors. I could just be completely making this up and seeing things in my head, but hey, you be the judge. Get some kind of Egyptian-themed guys going on here. There's some debate of whether or not Evil Knight is like a spiritual successor or sequel to Crypt Killer. Now, if you play Player 1 in this game, you get Henry Jones. He's kind of like the main character for the game. And in Crypt Killer, you play as Henry. Both are horror-themed. Both are light gun games. Crypt Killer has crypts. This kind of has like a crypt-looking environment. So while it might not actually be a sequel proper to Crypt Killer, definitely seems like a spiritual successor. Those flannel zombies, too, you can shoot the meat off them and see the bones, which is definitely a nice little effect to check out. A lot more animations in the death work here than on Total Vice. Characters explode, they come apart. Total Vice, they kind of just slump over and fade into the background. Got kind of that hillbilly guy with the big axe as well. More characters for sure in this game. Playthrough of this was pretty okay. Like I said in the previous video, capturing these things was quite hard. I had about a, no joke, almost probably 30 feet of cable running across the house. Had a PVM with BNC in, BNC out, going to all sorts of different adapters to be able to get this into a computer. So overall, I was focusing more on the capture than I was on the playthrough. Although, game's still hard. I'm not great at it. I played it a lot, but I've never actually spent the time to try to get that good at it. Since I'm not paying quarters, really, the impetus is null. And there's Liv. Or the person that looked like Liv a long time ago. It's never explained. The arcade flyers don't really give you much more backstory. I don't know why I'm looking for so much story in an arcade game from the 90s, but kind of make some presumptions in there as what's going on. And you just have that never explained, creepy looking rotted face door. Another elevator sequence. Those guys there kind of look like, I don't know, some sort of like feral beast or dog or something to me. If you play through Course B, this little area right here is the only time you're going to see them. Kind of look like maybe giant rotted baboon torsos. Who knows? You're going to see them in Course A or Course C more, but it's definitely an enemy that doesn't make a lot of appearances in the game. Kind of like the rotten chinchillas or the bats. You see them now and then, but they're not some of the stalwart enemies that you're going to get. Just keep going up this elevator. I think we get one more monkey. Maybe I'm wrong. Nope. There you go. So here we are in kind of the cavern ruins area. I'm going to go to this one last area here with the Egyptian mummy kind of shooting at you. Because I think he's a mummy. You never get close enough really to see what you're looking at. That scissors enemy, that is definitely ripped off from House of the Dead. No doubt about that. Somebody at Konami liked that enemy and said, hey, let's put it in this game. One more Leave Shriver zombie. Gets me with the axe. Loses a little meat on the bone, and then he dies. And then that guy just came from nowhere. They must materialize through walls. Kind of looks like Fester from Addams Family. Call him the Fester zombie. Seems like a good name. None of the characters have names, so kind of just made some up as I went along. Oh, really getting hit bad in this stage. But we're getting close to the end of stage 4. It kind of has like a boss, non-boss. I'll let you see. So that's the main antagonist of the game. He's in charge of all the other minions, which are apparently all male because it said, come on men, let's fight, even though there's definitely been some female zombies wearing pearls in the game. Also, Henry Jones showed up to the mansion in a tie, so maybe he got off work at the office and realized his girlfriend Liv was kidnapped and just happened to have a handgun. Once again, I'm probably reading way too much between the lines. For some reason, I feel like putting story in where there shouldn't be any. But that's basically it. Just a couple more of these transparent little ghosts from stage 4. We're going to go on to the ending. I'm going to crawl up this little rock wall, but go ahead and watch, and we'll be back with the last stage. And now we have Chapter 5, The Horror. It is a very quick level. There's maybe about a minute worth of gameplay before you go into the final boss. But there are a couple different paths. Depending on what keys you have and what ending you're getting, you can come out of the stage in different ways. You really don't see much different, just a different look at the cemetery, but it is something different that you can do. There's Liv. She's on some sort of sacrificial altar, and she's been turned into one of them at this point in time. Just take a look at those guys. Kind of blurry textures, but it looks cool. I would have totally taken this back in 98. Still do, but, you know, back in the 90s, I loved light gun games. I played the original House of the Dead at a Great Escape in Lake George, New York, and came home and traded in my Nintendo 64 so I could buy a Saturn to play the House of the Dead. Wish I still had the game because now they're worth like $300 if they're complete. I think I bought it for $10 at KB Toys since the Saturn was doing so bad back then. And there's the final boss. Totally not the magician from House of the Dead, but I think it's the magician from House of the Dead. It's going to have 2 forms. I won't spoil the second form. I'm sure you could guess at what it might be, but I'll let you watch. Got a couple different attack patterns. He's going to summon up these ghosts to try to hit you, and then he's going to come in for a claw swipe. If you unload an entire clip into his head, you can block his attack, but the amount of time it takes, pretty tight, and if you haven't reloaded before that, you're definitely not going to get that shot off. Maybe if you use the charge shot, you could knock him back. Honestly, it's just something that I never use a lot in gameplay. I always kind of forget after about 4 minutes that you can tilt the gun back and use that shot, so it's just, you're not going to see a lot of it in this particular playthrough. Which is good in a way that you don't need that component to effectively play the game, because I do own 2 of the original guns, but these boards do work with the generic HAP 45 caliber light gun, so you can still play the game fully without having the exact original hardware, which, as far as if you want to try to find this game and play it, it's nice to be able to take a light gun, you know, from a third-party vendor and be able to plug it in. Can't get damage on this guy unless he's actively in his attack pattern. I mean, I'm shooting him right here, and there's nothing coming off his bar. But somehow he died anyway. So Liv pops off of the altar, and she's fine again. And it's time to resurrect ourselves. He is some sort of gargoyle crossed with a dog. Kind of looks mythological, like half goat, half man. Good looking final boss though. He's got some decent attack patterns. He's going to come in for a swipe. Again, it's just so hard to hit him enough to dodge the attack with the amount of bullets you have. Shoots these fire orbs. I kind of thought they used to look like skulls, but now, having watched this after the capture, they kind of just look like some sort of burning rock coming at you. And there, I did get enough shots into his head to be able to attack that one, or sorry, block that one attack. You can see the life bar at the top. I don't know why it's so pixelated. It's such a simple texture. It shouldn't have been pixelated. It definitely could have been better. I really just, there's so little to look at on the M2. I know I've said it probably so many times this commentary and previous commentaries, but it's so hard to say what the platform is capable of. You've got that terrible skybox in the back with giant pixels, but all the demos, all the previews, things, software that you can play on the kiosk unit that you know is executing in real time and isn't a CGI render or something that the 3DO company made up in their spare time to try to lie to you about the capabilities, look a lot better than this. So the Konami games are definitely the most fleshed out games, because they are games, you can play them, but they're not the best example of what you could pull off on the hardware. But here we go. A couple more shots, and I'll let you guys watch the ending. But we're going to be back next week with some more fun content, so step back and see what we got going on. You can follow us on Instagram at Chicago Game Collector. Otherwise, give us a like and a subscribe if you like this content. I did upload a second playthrough that doesn't have any commentary, so you can just watch the game, as well as non-commentary runs of Course A and Course C. So check them all out. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
Lib.
Thank you. Who were those guys anyway?
Lib, let's get out of here.